Welcome to Satsang. Helen will start in a few moments. Just a few announcements as usual. And welcome to those online. For those in the room, housekeeping, the toilets are just through there and around the corner. Drinks, if you could leave 80p for a drink. And when we leave, can we leave quietly, because it is a residential place. When Satsang is finished, could we put the official Satsang, could we stay on topic? Just to keep the same energy that we want, really. Satsang will start in a few moments, and Helen will give a talk, and then she will ask for questions. If you have a question here and want to come up, you won't be seen on the on YouTube, but you will be heard. So keep your details confidential. Don't you know what I mean? And also online in the chat box, keep your details confidential. If you have a question online, please email. We're just saying email them in, and we'll ask them at the next Satsang that we can fit them in. When Satsang is ongoing, can we ask that you stay in the room and that there's no eating? You are allowed to drinks, but eating is a noise that will just disrupt people. And people are really getting into something deep with Helen. It's very disruptive. As are mobiles, so please turn your mobiles off or on silent, not on vibrate. To email the questions in, just jumping about, to email the questions in, please email to evolutionofspirit@gmail.com. You can leave donations by the door or online, and we are grateful for them. Can I just say that the shop and the online donations are to help keep Satsang free. So feel free to donate or buy. I'm going to talk about the events. We had an amazing event on Sunday. We had the intensive, Satsang intensive. It was literally a packed room, but it was very good, and we had quite a few online, and it was a wonderful, wonderful day. We are going to announce the next one soon. Next week we have Satsang as usual, Thursday evening, as we do most weeks. We also have the Friday lunchtime Satsang, which is on the 28th, which is a week tomorrow, 11 till 1. All the details are on the website. The retreat is now fully booked. We're not taking any places or any bookings online or in attendance. It's fully booked. We will be announcing the autumn retreat dates very soon. All the events are interactive. If you book an event, if you book the Dissolving the Ego course or the intensive, they are interactive. You're allowed to speak and ask a question. They're not like these actual satsangs where you're just listening. The Satsang intensive was extremely successful. We had a guy in America and people all over. It was really good. So don't feel if you live away that you have to miss out. You can join in. The Sangha support group, the local one, we've decided to suspend for a number of reasons. It's not being attended very well, and people are putting a lot of effort in, and I know that people are meeting up separately, so we're just going to suspend it for now and maybe restart another date when there's more people. Thanks to Karen for running that. I know you've put a lot of effort in, and we do appreciate it. The online Sangha is going to be ongoing. That is once a month. And the next one is on the 15th of March, 12:30. That's run by Gainer. If you want details, please see the website, which is www.helenhamilton.org. We're also going to start something new, which is just an opportunity. People often say, oh, I didn't know that event was on. I didn't know this was going on. We're going to do a mailing list. People have to ask to be on the mailing list. We're not going to send out random emails to everyone. So if you're online and want to be sent the events, it will be one email a month. You won't be getting lots of spam from us. One email a month, and we will send you what is coming up in the next 2 months, and it will be a rolling email. If you want to be on that in the room, just see Claire and myself, and we're going to make a list. We've got most of your email addresses. I think we've got everyone's here. So just let us know if you want that email, It'll be once a month towards the end of the month. I think that is it. The next retreat after this one will be in the autumn of this year, and we've already got people interested in the places. We can't announce a date yet. That will be at the end of March. We'll be announcing a date. Dissolving the Ego course, we're looking for a venue now, and we're hoping that will be in April. So any questions or anything, just ask after the session or email in, and we're here to help. Right, enjoy your satsang, and I'll probably be here next week.
Namaste. Welcome everyone to Satsang. Tonight, wanted to talk about something that really helped me along my own pathway, and as always, it seems to be the right thing to talk about tonight because it's come up with several questions this week and in different subjects, but really the same question. And if you know me at all, you know I'm a big advocate of questions, asking questions, and contemplation. And there's one question that really helped me at a particular time, and it's not too widely known really. So, but it came up on Sunday at the intensive, so I thought it'd be good to discuss again today. It's a question that I found really that undid our basic assumption of our ego. The basic assumption of our ego is that we are only here, you know, this particular body and mind, one body and mind. And the question for me that really helped me was, where am I? This question, it seems like a crazy thing to ask, really. And it's a weird question because when I started off this journey, I felt that I could easily answer that. Obviously here, this. And the further I went into this seeing, the deeper my seeing got, the harder it was to answer that question. And success in our awakening really can be defined when we can't really ever answer this question anymore. Where exactly am I? So I just wanted to talk about the progression of how this question unfolded for me, because you might find your own journey in there somewhere. So if you'd have asked me at first, where am I probably would have given you a very, very strange look and said, I'm obviously here, you know, this. And I would have pointed to my body and mind. I would have said, that's me, like we all do. And we start off with this sense of being very localized as someone, somewhere in time and space. We identify with our particular body and mind. We feel that this is me. And our thoughts, our desires, our history, our goals, our plans for the future, our pathway, our awakening, everything. So if you'd asked me to start off with where am I would have said, here, I'm me, I'm this person, I'm someone. And I was desperately trying to be the best someone I could be. I really felt I was located somewhere, I had a location. And that was based on wherever my body was, you know. Wherever my body was, that was where I am. That was my assumption. And we all start off that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But after a while, it becomes too small. It begins to constrict us all. And we end up finding ourselves in satsang or something similar. So I began to really question this. Where exactly am I? Because the more I looked at what I really was, the more I wasn't so sure where I actually was. I began to recognize that if I focus on things that are coming and going about me, if I focus on my body, if I focus on my thoughts, if I focus on my emotions, my goals, my dreams, my history, my regrets, and most of all, if I focus on my awakening, my realization, then I'm really going to feel like I have this location here and only here. I'm really going to be identifying what's going on in this body, what's going on in this spiritual awakening, what's going on in this journey. So I really began to see that a shift of focus to the formless awareness would really begin to undo this assumption that I am somewhere in particular. In the great universe, then I was located in a particular place. So I began to focus more and more on the formless awareness. And then I really wasn't so sure at all that I was only here, because when I didn't focus on what was coming and going about me, but what was always here, the formlessness, whether we call it silence or awareness or noumenon or stillness in the self, whatever we actually call it, it is not coming and going, and it doesn't have any particular location. What do I mean by that? I mean it's not locatable. If you try to find out where you are, you won't be able to answer that question. You know where your body is, you know where your mind is, you know where your emotions are happening. But where are you exactly in all this? The one that's observing all of this, where is its location? Can it even have a location, a fixed abode, so to speak, if it's not a thing? If it's not an object? If it's purely intangible? If you are not a solid thing, can you have an address? Could we write that down and send something to you, or could we only send it to your body? If you check, what really am I? If I momentarily discount my body and my mind and everything that's coming and going about me, there's only something insubstantial and formless that remains. Where is that? Nobody can tell you. You can't even say where it is except to say, it's here, I'm here, a sense of being here. It's present. So I focused on this formlessness about that was myself, to undo this assumption that I was somewhere in particular. Why is that valuable to us? Because if I can no longer agree energetically that I am somewhere in particular, that I'm someone, and I'm not going to be dragged back into identifying with thoughts or suffering when ego pipes up, or when some negative emotion, or when somebody says something that pushes a button somewhere inside. If I don't know where I am, how can anything attack me? Where are thoughts going to land inside me if I don't know where I am? We are so used to, as human beings, referencing our body and our mind. If I said, tell me something about yourself, all you'd be able to tell me really is about your body and mind. You could tell me what you are not. You could say, I'm not a thing. I'm not a shape. I'm not coming and going. I'm not changing. But there's not much you can say about what you are, other than it's absolutely here. You're here. Of that we're sure. So the shift of focus from looking through the senses all the time and using my mind to think about myself, embracing this question, where am I actually? If I don't use my body as a reference point to answer that question, very, very quickly there's a great deal of silence in response to that question. Where am I? And instead of identifying as being a someone somewhere, I began to identify with this formless awareness that was everywhere. Because it isn't a thing. It doesn't have any edges. Only objects have a size and a shape. And this is not an object. You are not an object. You are that subjective space in which all objects are appearing, including your own body. How far does that reach? How far does it go? Does it reach the person next to you? Is there really a person next to you? Are there really any objects in the room that you're sitting in? If this formless awareness is everywhere, all pervading. So for a while, we all need to begin to really sort of identify as being everywhere, to undo this massive assumption energetically that I'm somewhere, someone in time and space, moving around inside the universe in time and space. And when we do that, we realize there'll be an enormous sense of freedom, because I'll no longer be able to identify with anything that happens as a someone. And that is all of my thoughts, all of my emotions, all of it, all of my struggle. Instead, I'll have this sense of being just diffuse and everywhere, and nothing in particular, and also everything in particular. Asking this question, where am I? And going ever deeper into the answers to that question. And then for some of us, even the definition, the self-definition of being everywhere becomes too small, because it is still an idea I'm holding about myself. Everywhere means everywhere that there is a form, I am there. If I'm everywhere, then I'm everywhere that there is something. And it's nowhere near as constricting as I am somewhere, someone, alone in time and space, trying to make my way through life. But for some of us, it can become just as constricting in the end. And so the last place that we end up is not even knowing that, not being able to answer that, because all these forms that we would use to reference where we are, I'm everywhere, I'm all of this, meaning all of these forms, they're all going to disappear. They're all temporary and transient. So if we don't reference any form to define where we are, then suddenly the category of being everywhere is gone as well. Category of defining ourselves, of being able to label ourselves as, I'm not somewhere, I'm everywhere. Now, our mind can't make this jump, but you can have this direct experience right now if you ask the question inside yourself, where precisely am I? If I don't reference anything at all that's coming and going, to answer that question, I can't answer that question at all. I don't know where I am. Now, for our mind, that is a really scary thing to embrace. But for you, it's absolute liberation, freedom. I'm nowhere in particular and everywhere in particular. So the end point of this question, where am I, is an absolute silence that just pervades all of your existence, ever deepening, because your mind cannot answer that question with thoughts. Nobody can answer that question. Or the answer that we come to accept most is our direct experience of emptiness, nothing, silence, formless awareness only. And in that formless awareness, in that emptiness, the question would never even arise, where am I? There's only an option to ask that question when you have a brain and a body to think with. So what I know myself to be has no location at all. At all. And after all these years of contemplation and meditation on myself, I can't tell you where I am. At all. And I'd like to invite you to experience what that feels like, really. If you simply don't use anything that's not going to stay as a reference point, thoughts, emotions, a sense of being someone, the waking state, all of that comes and goes. Anything at all you could use to give yourself a location is going to go at some point. It's appearing inside you. And then this beautiful freedom of not knowing at all where you are. There may be times when you feel more like someone. There may be times when you feel more like nobody, nowhere. But nothing will impact you. Nothing will be happening to you. The very statement to say my thoughts, my mind, is saying I am right here and only here. How do I transcend my ego? See if your ego can find you to trouble you when you ask this question. Asking this question is not, as with any question, ask this question and really allow the answers to become experiential, to allow your experience to shift from that question. What does it feel like to live from the place where you can't answer that question? Absolute peace and silence. Nothing more that your mind can say about that. How could you describe something in thoughts that isn't a something? Has no location and no shape and no form. It can't be harmed. It's completely intangible. It's always been here. It's never going to leave. Your mind can only talk when it's comparing things. So if this is your question, if you feel a pull to this question, where am I exactly? And it may not be your question, but there was a time for me when it was suddenly very, very urgent for me to find out where I was. And I never did. But it will undercut this tendency we all have to identify, to want to define ourselves. Even to define ourselves as a formless awareness. Any self-definition at all that you hold on to, you're going to have to keep experiencing the opposite. That's the nature of thought. That's the nature of duality. So even if I am firmly convinced that I am formless, that's a necessary stage on the way through to the end of this question. To undo the assumption that I am a form, I am a someone. I'm still going to experience this formlessness as an experience. It's going to seem to come and go, intermixed with these experiences of being a someone and back into suffering again. The awareness itself, the self, is not trying to define itself, is it? That's only possible when we access thoughts. You can use this question to lift yourself above the realm of thoughts. Where am I exactly? Find out now before the body goes, and then you can enjoy the rest of the body's time without any fear, without any suffering, without any ability for your mind to say anything at all that will impact you. Don't have any fixed abode. Don't know where you are. Don't be so sure you're somewhere. And then don't be so sure that you're everywhere. Everywhere feels so much better than somewhere, but it will eventually also feel too small. One size too small. It's a necessary stage along the way. So if you're convinced that you're somewhere, if you're convinced that you're sitting in a chair listening to this, then work on the idea that you're everywhere. Notice the formlessness. If you're really convinced that you're formless, and see what happens when you let go of even that definition. And then you'll see no difference between form and formless. It'll be one seamless experience, continuous experience of peace. All of our troubles, all of our suffering comes from defining ourselves, from having a location. All of it. And maybe for the first time in your entire life, it's okay to completely not be able to answer this question at all. After all this trying to understand, I've come to understand that I'm nothing that I can understand, you know. And there's a beautiful peace and serenity in that. So if this is your question, if this pulls at you, where am I? Then the work is already done. It's already inside you, and it's going to be working away at this frequency, undoing all of your ability to assume anything about yourself. What do you know about yourself? What can you actually say about yourself? You know that you exist. That's all we can really say. There were times in my own journey where the question, what am I, was really much more appealing. But towards the end, this question became very urgent, very important. Satsang, or awakening, really is the only place in the entire world of human culture, isn't it, where it's all right to not know the answer to anything. You know, where we're supposed to forget everything that we've picked up along the way. And I mean, can you imagine any other human endeavor where the one sitting giving the talk didn't know the answer? You know, it would just be ridiculous, wouldn't it? And yet it's the pinnacle of our spiritual evolution, is to not know anything about ourselves. It's quite funny, really. Can you imagine sitting in a French class and the teacher didn't know how to speak French? You know, didn't know a thing about it. Let's start with these questions that have been emailed in. Hi Helen, is it possible that I may have been experiencing my formlessness and not recognized it because of its simplicity? Plus, my wife has just become very interested in your teaching. She hasn't a background in spirituality or a history of seeking. What would your advice be to a newbie? So is it possible that I may have been experiencing my formlessness and not recognized it because of its simplicity? Well, yes, only all the time, you know, only all the time. For me, when I first asked that question, what really am I, and really experienced that formless awareness, it didn't feel like anything amazing at all. It was just this blank, empty space where mind had stopped talking for a minute. There was nothing amazing about it. And that was the first time I'd accessed it consciously, that I'm aware of at least. But I came to see that I'd been in this place many, many times, right? You watch a TV show or something, and you just blank, empty. Or while you're listening now, you may be blank. Or if you're watching a sunset, or you know, you're watching a musical or something like that, you know, you're immediately empty, totally. So satsang is really to come to experience this consciously and to know how to see this and be this consciously. But all the time we're falling back into our natural state accidentally, you know. Sometimes just through something very beautiful moving us, you know, newborn baby or something. Or an amazing sunset, or the birds all take off together and you're just in awe and you're just watching in silence immediately. And because it's not shouting for our attention, because it's never going to say, hey, I'm your real self, you know, it is easy to overlook it. Especially when it's always been there. How much attention do we pay to what isn't coming and going? All of our attention goes to what's changing and moving. Usually to our thoughts about everything. So it's absolutely possible and very, very definitely probable that you've experienced your formlessness and not recognized it because of its simplicity. If we're trying to find anything at all, if we're seeking at all, then we're not going to find it. End of story. The seeking it is based on the assumption that it's not already here, and then I'm not already it. And I remember the time when I realized the formless awareness that everyone's talking about is just me, you know. It's just what I've always called I, or me. And it's the easiest thing in the world to overlook when you first notice it, or to overlook its importance. It's just some blank, empty state that didn't really feel like anything at first. So it's very possible. It says, plus my wife has just become very interested in your teaching. She hasn't a background in spirituality or a history in seeking. Very good. Very good. What would your advice be to a newbie? Well, first I'd say not to worry about understanding what I've said or what any teacher says. Not to worry if you can't understand it up here at all. If I had a penny for the number of times people have said, I didn't understand anything you said tonight, but I felt really peaceful, you know. It's not about us understanding it up here, because I'm not talking to your mind anyway. And you always understand me, and the way you feel will be witness to that. The way you begin to feel will be witness to that. And sometimes we're at a great advantage when we don't have any background at all. You know, no spiritual baggage, no long list of meditation practices I've tried, no 10 years of yoga, no whatever it is that we've done. No seeking and seeking and seeking until we're exhausted and then collapsing in a heap and no longer able to pull together a seeker inside ourselves, and then accidentally the self reveals itself in our exhaustion for a moment. So someone who's brand new to this has really got the best chance of anyone that's listening to this to actually recognize it's just me. It's just me. All they're talking about is me. Me without the form, you know, me without the concepts. And just to pay attention to how you feel, not to worry about how much you're understanding, not to worry so much about how you can speak this back to someone, because it's all going in, it's all going inside, changing you on some fundamental level. I've seen quite a few people have some very profound awakenings the very first time in Satsang. And I've also seen the opposite, where people come week after week and ask the same question again and again and again, and seem somehow unable to break through this because they've got so many ideas about awakening, about themselves, about their ability to awaken, to find peace. And the last thing I'd say, you can't get it wrong. So just relax and see what happens. You know, you are that self that is trying to recognize itself. What can get in the way of that? What can affect that? And it's very, very normal that when you've had some level of awakening, when you're beginning to feel peace, you begin to radiate that presence, that those around you suddenly become interested in that, because it's infectious, isn't it? I want to feel like you feel. I want to feel as peaceful as you are. To whatever degree we've realized the truth and are living as that, will be radiating this presence. You begin to affect people in your life. You know, they're just happier around you. They feel safer and more relaxed, less defensive, all of that. I've been contemplating the video that you posted on Facebook a couple of months ago regarding free will. Observers of a decision-making experiment know what the decision the subject will make 6 seconds before the subject makes the decision. So in essence, there is no free will. Our egos or minds or self are merely afterthoughts or passengers. We take credit for decisions or actions that would have taken place. So my question is liberation or enlightenment a matter of ignoring the parasite that claims credit for action or deeds? Moreover, is suffering directly associated with this narcissistic freeloading jockey? So the video that this is referring to was sent to me by someone who is probably listening to Satsang now. And there was a gentleman who decided to do an experiment on making a decision. He had a choice, as far as I remember, to press 2 buttons. And they put him under a scanner as he did it, so they could see his brain activity light up. So all of his choice was to press this button or that one. We'll say A or B. And he would just randomly make a choice. Right, this one. And as the experiment finished, they went back to look at the results. They could see that certain areas of his brain were lighting up when he chose which button to press. But there was, more importantly, an area of his brain that was lighting up 6 seconds before that, indicating that something new 6 seconds before he did, consciously, before he consciously had that thought, this one or that one, A or B. Of course, this my friend who told me about this said it's since been taken off most social media because it freaks a lot of people out. And this gentleman was very disturbed. He just could not understand that something was seemingly making these decisions for him and knew about it 6 seconds before. You can imagine if you think you're going to ask a question, and put your hand up, and I was already looking at you going, I know it's going to be you, But this was disturbing for this man because he had no, his self-definition was still the someone somewhere. So he was still identifying with that particular body and mind, the egoic sense of self, the one that feels that it's doing, it's choosing. So he was quite disturbed at first when they showed him the results. But for those in satsang, or those that have awakened, then it's not one or the other. It's not the 6 seconds before. That isn't what I am. I'm also the one pressing the button, making a decision. It's not one or the other. So just to explain that is what that is about. So I've been contemplating the video that you posted on Facebook a couple of months ago regarding free will. So in essence, there is no free will. Well, I don't really agree with that, to be honest. Free will is always and only to be able to choose what to focus on. We can focus on our egoic sense of self, or we can choose to focus on our formlessness. And then we can choose not to focus on any particular one and rest as the absolute, in which form and formless are just ideas in someone's head. We don't have free will in the way that our ego would like to say. I'm the one choosing, I'm the one doing. But our actions, our thoughts, our words are being chosen based on our level of consciousness. So we always have a choice what level of consciousness to interact with people. If I choose to come from a place of love, my words and actions and thoughts are going to be of a much different level than if I choose to sit and judge or to hate or dislike. So indirectly, we always have this choice where to interact from. It's always in our control. And free will, it doesn't really get any better than being the source of the entire universe. How much do you want to control? Well, you're the source of the whole universe. It's only alarming if you keep it inside your ego, like I don't have any choice. I'm not the one making the decisions. That voice is the outcome of believing that you're only this ego, that that's all that you are. The sense of being someone. When we think that that is all we are, and then suddenly we find out there's something bigger than that that's actually making the decisions, that's going to be alarming until we realize that's also us. Plus it's kind of, by the way, sustaining the whole universe. So if anyone's a real control freak and doesn't like the idea of losing control, you're kind of in charge of the whole universe. So my mind liked that a lot when I figured that out. Don't have to let go of anything. So in essence, there is no free will. Our egos or minds or self are merely afterthoughts or passengers. More like the vehicle. If you didn't have this vehicle to drive around in, your body, your thoughts, your ego, then the self wouldn't be able to recognize itself. So not really afterthoughts or passengers. So my question is, I'll finally get to the question. We've been going like 10 minutes. Is liberation or enlightenment a matter of ignoring the parasite that claims credit for action or deeds? Definitely not. Enlightenment is where we come to realize I am the source of those actions and the one deciding, all of that is me. I don't want to choose which one. I am the formless space in which all this is occurring, and I'm also the body and the thought, I am going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. Parasite really suggests, the word parasite really suggests that it's something that's just kind of to be eradicated, and that's really just exactly the opposite. We've actually finally we understand that sense of someone, that it's a software program, that it's never supposed to be sentient of its own. It's thinking thoughts based on who you think yourself to be, who you know yourself to be. Your thoughts and your decisions and all that will come out of who you've known yourself to be deeply. It's really like the vehicle for the self, so that the self can recognize itself. If we were to just ignore it, it'd be like sitting here saying, I really want to watch something on YouTube, but I'm not going to actually use my body and mind to do it, and then complaining that nothing's happening because we haven't actually reached out and touched the button to turn it on. Moreover, is suffering directly associated with this narcissistic freeloading jockey? No. Suffering is associated with how much we're assuming about ourselves. It's only reason we suffer is because we assume something to be true that isn't. This narcissistic freeloading jockey is actually quite necessary for our existence. And even the self is narcissistic. The great self is narcissistic, isn't it? It's obsessed with itself. It wants to discover itself. It's a strange way to talk, I know. But when I figured this out, I felt so much more, am I being selfish by focusing on my own self-realization here? Yes, actually, and that's fine. And what looks like compassion from an awakened being towards other beings is not. It's really absolute selfishness. We've just come to really understand what that self includes, which is all of this. Everyone is already inherently in love with themselves, aren't they? Let's face it. Concerned with ourselves. And so that concern with ourselves just extends through the whole of the universe in the end. It doesn't have any boundaries anymore. Why? Because I've seen myself to be everywhere and somewhere. And everywhere there's a somewhere and a someone. All of that is included back. So you can't really be selfish or selfless in the end. It's all you, and it's always been you, and there is only you. Try being selfish then. Or selfless. Those ideas are obviously useful along the way, but in the end, you're just being selfish, but with a capital S, which feels better, doesn't it? I feel a bit more spiritual when I talk like that then, you know. Okay. Narcissistic freeloading jockey. Okay, would anyone else like to ask a question or share an experience? Are we all thinking about our narcissistic, what was it? Freeloading jockey. Yeah. Yeah.
So I talked about last week about unworthiness. It's been
Unworthiness.
the feelings of unworthiness. It's been kind of showing its steps again this week. But if I ask that question,
If you ask, where am I?
Yeah.
In response, yeah.
it can't affect it because I'm nowhere.
So what is your actual experience when you ask? Because we were talking last week about certain people in your life bringing up this feeling of unworthiness again. Yeah.
I brought it on myself. I judged myself this week with it, and so it came up again. And is that really true? It feels really true.
It feels, yeah, it'll seem to be true.
So it's probably just because I sort of potted along things. It didn't feel as fearful and anxious as it was still there, and I was, I was feeling very low and I was crying, but it wasn't. It was more like a leaking rather than crying. Do you know what? Yeah, like a different kind of crying. I don't know. It's just. I know I need to look at it, but it's how to look at it and address it really. Because it's obviously something that it's sort of decided to stick his head out of the sand at the minute. And,
right when you're peaceful.
Yeah.
You're not going to keep it. It's going to go.
Yeah.
You're not doing this right. All that stuff, yeah.
And everything, and the whole idea of I was beating myself up over was I've noticed that there was a mistake in something I've done. Oh my God! So beating myself up for that. It's just an error in judgment. Multitasking and not noticing one little thing and like that, and it's just kind of that was it. That was enough. It wasn't anything major.
Less and less are you able to. Before we would have accepted feeling really bad for a really long time. We just kind of accept. Like there were certain people I would go to visit, and I just knew from the moment I got there to the moment I left, I would feel inadequate, totally, and probably for a long time afterwards when I got home, I'd still be that sense. But the more you progress, the more peaceful you're feeling, the more you somehow can't tolerate feeling this way inside, not willing to put up with it anymore. Something becomes much more. So even just the slightest little bit of it that's triggered, it's like, I don't want this anymore. Something inside is saying, I don't want to feel this way anymore.
It was just, I couldn't, I had to wait till after 8 at night to be able to sit down and really try and move it along.
Yeah.
I couldn't seem to do that and function at the same time. So it felt icky longer than if I finished it. If I'd gone straight on from work outside, I'd have less ickiness.
Less ickiness, yeah. So what happens when you ask this question, where am I then? Does it change what happens?
Because I was just sort of realising that I don't know where I am, and how can that affect something that's not there?
Mm-hmm.
Just
it's like we're so used to saying, this is me, I'm here, because I'm pointing to the body.
I'm saying, this is me, and you're not worthy. But when I say, where is me?
Yeah.
Or am I? Then the finger's pointing at like nothing.
Yeah. Like suddenly, if your body just disappeared, you were still here. Where would you be? Where could you say you were? It's just, there's no reference point then, is there, at all?
Yeah.
And along with that goes all of our spiritual problems, and our very, very spiritual problems, and then our problems about awakening. You know, like I keep going back to the ego, and then I go back to the formlessness. Well, is that going to be possible when you don't know where you are? Absolutely not. You know, all of it's gone. And even the what am I will take you there as well. You know, but for me, there was just something that much faster in the end wiped out this tendency to.
Is this really true? That question is this really true?
Yeah.
Is this affecting the silence? No, I'm still crying. I don't know.
So if you're asking a question like that in contemplation and the suffering hasn't completely gone, then it's probably that we're accepting experiences or thought answers. You know, so I asked that question: is it really true that I'm unworthy, or whatever it is? Mine's going to probably have completely, you know, my mind just like, of course you're not, you know, and then at the same time, yes, you are unworthy. You know, like the polar opposite of answers, thoughts came up one after the other. And then there was a feeling of lightness and relief at asking that question, and sense of opening or expansion. And then some peace. But, you know, going deeper with that question, if there isn't an absolute experience of an end of, you know, lack of suffering in that moment, then it's probably just you haven't gone quite deep enough with the answer, the experiential answer.
If mind was ready to come up with reasons.
Mine's got all this evidence, right? It's got a big, thick book.
Yeah. And, you know, this and that. And so, you know, so I had quite a fun making up stories. But in the end, that's how I felt.
The beautiful thing about this question, where am I, is all of our struggles with our mind is based on the idea that I'm here listening to my mind. Right here where my mind, you know, in audible range of my thoughts. And can you imagine what's going to happen from the experiential not knowing at all where you are? How are you going to hear your thoughts from there? It's just not possible, you know. And noticing that we're all concerned with one brain only. You know, if we're formless and everywhere, then why is everyone concerned with their own thoughts and not their next door neighbours? You know, it's still this focus on one. Not that I'm saying you got to knock on their door and go, let's talk to you about your ego. But you can, yeah, you might want to do that, but probably not. You can see that there's still a focus on one location here only. Then that's the reason for all that suffering, isn't it? Yeah. It's very good, very good. If it's there at all, even if it's diminishing, there must be a deeper answer to the question, whatever question you're asking. Don't So mind is like sneaky. Sometimes it'll say, right, she's asking the question, let's give her some nicer thoughts so she feels better. And then we'll stop the inquiry before we've absolutely killed that tendency to believe that thought that I'm not good enough. So it'll keep coming, keep sprouting back up again. You know, like if you ever dug your garden and there's like those big not dandelions, what are they called? No, it begins to, anyway, doesn't matter. Big thick roots on them, like, you know, wooden roots on the weeds. And when they come out of the ground, they're like thinner, aren't they? And you can just snap them off. But there's a root right underneath. You know, you get your big fork and like bend your fork on it. You know, your prongs have gone all like that because you just can't get it out. And you know, a couple of times I've done that and gone, oh, you know what? I'll just leave it. Spray some weed killer on it or something. Of course, guess what's going to happen? It just comes right back again because we haven't got to the root of it. You know, ego will give you some nice thoughts and feelings and some peace and all of the rest of it, just to go, right, you've done enough now, that question, don't go any further. Right at the point where you're about to break through that belief once and for all. Yeah. Very good. Would anyone else like to ask or share? Yeah. Excuse me.
Okay. Hey. I think there's a question in here.
That's gonna be one of those.
I've come to see how causality is back to front to the way that I've always assumed it was. So, for example, if something happens seemingly out there in life that makes me angry, it's because I'm angry to start with, and then that comes to me to reflect.
There's some thought there being believed in that it's not fair, or I can't get what I want, or something like that.
So if I believe I can't get what I want, I'll keep engineering situations, and I do believe, like I say, I'm everywhere. I'm engineering these situations, and I feel like, you know, if we go back to kind of what someone was saying about the narcissistic something jockey, I feel like I'm using the universe to teach myself something, but I'm just not getting it. It's like I keep going round. I give an example of the one I've got of a minute. So for this literally happened today, and we're just like,
it's not, for some reason, it's not easy to understand because we're going against this tide of belief.
Yeah.
When we listen to someone talk about causality and how to get in front of it, the right end of that loop, we're listening to that through this belief that all this stuff is out there happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it. So even though you know that that's not the actual way it is, there's still this energetic part of you that's kind of like, don't listen to anything that she says, you know. So you know, it'll take some repetition and actually some applying it in certain circumstances, and then watching the thing disappear out there to really grasp it, you know.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with all this stuff. Like the theme of the minute is like I keep getting stuck in traffic, like inexplicable, really random traffic jams. And then what happens is, so for maybe after 5 minutes, I'll go, well, I'm going to take control of this situation, and I'll do a U-turn in the middle of the road. The moment I'll do a U-turn, all the traffic will just go off, and I'll get a van come in front of me and stuff like that. And I'm like, what am I meant to do with this? I'm somehow blocking myself, and funnily enough, I'm frustrating myself.
Yeah.
I'm getting frustrated, but I don't.
The essence
I'm
of
confused.
Any belief that's causing those experiences is going to be based on how it makes you feel. Right. So those experiences, you said frustration, you said anger.
Yeah.
So there's a very strong feeling of I can't. Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of frustration.
Very basic feeling I can't, which you've experienced so many times as a human being. And it doesn't really matter whether it's I can't reach awakening or I can't get out this traffic jam. It's the same sort of fundamental feeling. I'm being blocked from.
A sense that they're related. Yeah.
And it's a basic sense that comes with being a someone of being limited, right? Powerless in some situations. So, and because these experiences keep happening to us to prove how powerless we are, how limited we are, we keep buying that inside, don't we? So we try to fix it by changing something out there. I remember one time I tried 27 different routes or something to one place, and there was traffic every single time on that. I'll go this way because it's quiet, go down the back road. There's 3 sets of temporary traffic lights that night on that quiet back road. What is going on? And it was just obvious that whichever way around I tried to change it out there without actually changing, recognizing it here, it was just going to be more of the same. And less can you tolerate any sense of feeling limited anymore and feeling powerless. So, what's your question? Sorry.
I don't exactly know. How can I progress with this?
Yeah.
Whether in some way, because I'm just as you pointed out, I'm continually frustrating myself, whether it be with this stuff, which I can grasp intellectually, fine, but deeper down, I get glimpses, and then my intellect grabs the glimpses and
off it goes.
Back we are to square one. Yeah, I want to funnily enough, like you said, control it all and make it all happen.
So can you see that this question is based on the I can't vibration? I can't get out of this causality loop. I can't live this as a lived realization. I can't quite get it. So when I figured this out, my whole spiritual suffering was all this vibration, because I'd had a lot of anger, and in the end, it was less sort of outright anger, but more frustration, irritation, impatience.
I've been getting really bad headaches for a few weeks, which I can tell I've noticed that it's actually just anger, just pushed down. Because I'm just so frustrated. So
if we temporarily forget the ways that it's manifesting and focus on how it makes you feel, and notice your tendency to try to only do something out there, right, to change it, then we can, I'm not saying don't drive a different route or whatever, but don't only do that. Look at what it's telling you inside. I can't, I'm not able to, it's not fair, like a real sort of primal. For me, I discovered this 2 or 3 year old toddler inside that was just stamping its feet going, it's not fair, I can't get this,
Yeah, I can relate to that.
And well, if I'm believing that deeply, then I'm going to keep on experiencing it, and especially about enlightenment. And when it hit me, it's like, right, okay, I'm creating my own issues. So again, I would sit with the question, is that really true that I can't? If I am the source of the universe and all of this universe itself, is it really true that I can't? Just as a general, right across the board, I didn't focus on any one particular area, although you may need to do that if it keeps showing up one. Is it really true that I can't get to work on time? If it's really chronically manifesting that way, is it really true that I can't find the right partner or the right job or whatever? Then we might have to apply it to a situation, but you can apply it as a general. Is it really true that I can be limited at all or powerless at all? Is it really true there's anything I can't do? My mind kind of balks at that. Of course you can't, because it's talking about the body, but you, the source of all that is. You're smiling now.
I'm smiling because I know that I'm doing it to myself. I know, and I don't mean it in an egotistical way. I mean, I know I'm creating those traffic jams. I know I'm creating those constant blocks. I'm doing that to this body and mind.
So if you think about it, ever since you've had a body and mind, and previous bodies and minds that come, you've experienced one thing consistently over and over again, and that's I can't.
I think so.
Yeah.
Quite deep.
In all the ways that it, unfulfilled desires, goals you didn't reach, and even at the end of the journey of being a someone, I can't get out of being someone. I can't seem to make that jump to living it. So with this question, is that really true that there's anything I can't do? Or is it really true that I can be limited? Even though your experience is showing you, yes, you're very limited right now, and you're feeling very limited, just have to hold on to this question until two things have happened. You're feeling constant and unbreakable peace, and it's stopped showing up in all the ways it shows up for you, which is your particular karmic patterns. Right? Do you want to do it now?
Yeah.
So, is it really true? Ask that question inside yourself. Is it really true I can be limited at all? Does it feel like limitation, or does it feel like I can't? Or what does it feel like? Being blocked?
It feels like I'm being blocked, but I'm blocking me. There's that Radiohead song, you just do it to yourself, and that's what really hurts. And that's the frustration. It's not that they're out to get me and all this traffic. It's the frustration is that I know that I'm doing it.
I'm so spiritually advanced that I'm really well aware of my own causality loops that I've still got spinning.
Yes.
And it's very painful. Yeah.
Yes.
So
it's madness.
Is it really true then that I can block myself? Maybe that's a deeper, better question.
I would say my mind automatically says, well, yes,
of course.
Quite clearly.
Yeah. So like with any question that I'll give you, there'll be thought answers, of which there'll be plenty.
Yeah.
What a stupid question that is, of course, there'll be emotional answers. One of them might be frustration, irritation, anger. They're all impatience. They're all subtle forms of anger, aren't they? Anger at
it's all anger.
Yeah. And then there'll be, as you ask that question, there'll be a sense of opening within the body, relaxation in the body. Still, that's not the answer that we're looking for. Remember two things, and it's being recorded so you won't forget. Until there's constant unbreakable peace, till your experience never ever contradicts that either. Right? Thought answers, emotional answers, experiences will come and go, epiphanies will come and go in response to that question inside you. All those are wonderful, but you want the experiential, constant peace that will be answer enough for you on it, and only that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that we reject all the others, but perhaps we haven't gone, like we were just saying, we haven't gone deep enough for the answer. And dug right at the root. Imagine what happens to your life when you can no longer believe that thought, I can't. Can you just get a sense of it already?
Yeah, life just turns into a big playground.
Yeah. So, it even plays as I can't stop this loop. I can't get out of this loop. I don't know how to. I feel blocked from living as that. It plays in very subtle ways in the end. Yeah. And it's never more painful than we realize we're doing it to ourselves, because we've begun to see our own power. We can't sort of step out of it. So any time that there is any suffering, it's that you're accepting a thought answer or an emotional answer or an experience or a revelation as an answer. And you're not gone, you've closed off, and we did the self-inquiry. We stopped at one particular answer, and we're then ignoring the constant experience that we're looking for. Can you get a sense of it?
I'm just confused now.
Good.
But I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
Back to this.
Basically, any phenomenal answer to that question, is it really true I can block myself? Any phenomenal answer is not good enough in terms of going to stop the suffering. Only answer that I'd like you to accept is absolute silence inside and a completely peaceful out there experience. Yeah. Only when both those things are in place, there's nothing that happens out there that makes you feel that way. I think something might happen out there, but you're just like, there's just no inner response to it at all. So when it stopped being things out there are triggering you anymore to feel that sense of being blocked. And there's a constant unbreakable peace.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know them two must be related, because it's an odd thing, because at certain times when I've more at that pace, I can sit in traffic and go, it's fine now. This is an opportunity to listen to more music or spend time with my son or
not Radiohead, yeah.
Yeah.
So like So when there's absolute conviction in here that it's just not possible, that's the one thing you can't do as the infinite being, to say I can't. You know, what could possibly block the formless awareness that is everywhere? When that answer has gone deep enough, then your outer world, which is really a reflection, will have to mirror that back to you in all the ways that it can. And there'll be lots of experiences of I can, and I did, and I am, you know, rather than I can't, and I don't seem to be able to. And if you recognize the subtle ways it's playing spiritually, I can't get out of this loop. So while that's playing, it's going to be the same over and over again, isn't it? Like this, you know, the stylus on the record, and it just keeps jumping back to I can't, I can't, I can't, over and over again.
It just feels totally symbolic. It don't matter whether it's a pain in my body, traffic, spiritual stuff. I know it's exactly the same game playing.
It will, you know, when you're seeing clearly enough what you are, it will show up in all of your world. You won't even be able to say it's happening in my finances or it's happening in my relationship so much. It'll just be like, where did all this traffic come from? There was no, you know, 2 minutes before. I remember when I was really grappling with this causality thing, you know, and this I can't get out of the causality loop. I woke up one morning, I had 2 flat tires, supposed to be going somewhere, and immediately I'm like, I can't go now, you know. And I just saw it. Wow, just like that, 2 flat tires. I mean, who gets 2 flat tires on the same day with the car sitting on a driveway and they weren't flat the night before? 2 nails in 2 tires, and it was just so obvious. I mean, it was good that it was so obvious.
You've seen Truman Show where he goes, right, I am getting out of town, I'm doing it, and
yeah, suddenly all this traffic,
and obviously all the actors conspire to stop him and stuff, and it's like,
and it's like living inside that, but knowing you're in the Truman Show, isn't it, in the end?
That's how it feels. Yeah, except so, I'm the actors as well.
If you can come to accept, I actually am that powerful that I can keep doing this, but I've also can turn that around in a second. Just to notice I've had a tendency to accept phenomenal answers, thoughts, emotions, and mostly my experience has been what I've been allowing to dictate what I'm going to feel about myself. I'm allowing my experience to dictate that I can't, right? And then I keep on repeating it. So I'm going to live from that place where I can't assume that anymore by asking. The only way to undo an assumption is to ask a question. So just live from that question and see what happens. Like, just hold it right inside your heart and don't let it go. Is that really true, that I can block myself? Or I can be limited or powerless or whatever feels right for you? But to undo that basic assumption, you know, I'm stuck in my own loop. That's a symptom of this I am blocked, not the cause of it. Did you get that? Or do you want me to say it again?
I think I've gone a bit brain dead again now, but it's okay because I can listen to it.
So your experience right now is exactly what I'm asking you to accept. Only brain dead, right? Silence. That's an experiential answer to that question. Is it really true? That's the only thing I want you to accept. We're not saying those other ones are bad, but this is the only one that's going to pull the root out. Like, I can't understand a word she's saying, and she's still talking, even though I've just said I can't understand it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you've done that hypnotizing thing on me.
Just nod and agree every now and again.
I'm just like a rabbit in the headlights. I just sit pretend I know what's going on.
You cannot feel frustrated like this. And you've just turned around. This is really important. Just try and hear this one sentence, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
You've just turned around immediately that I can't believe, because you're experiencing the answer to that question. Is it really true? Aren't you? You know, tumbleweed going past up there, and peace, right? Yeah. What could happen now out there to change how you feel, right as you are right now, in the experiential answer to that question?
I don't know, because I can't understand the question.
That's fine. And you also, it's Spend the
That's an answer.
spend the whole hour and a half talking to myself. If this is the only answer you're going to accept, never ever stop until you feel this way with that question. And you've just proved how easy it is to yourself to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, we're done now. Very well.
Thank you.
I'm almost hesitant to ask if there's any more questions. I've got time for one more. Yep.
I've just realised while Rich was talking that something kind of quite similar kind of happened to me today. It's not a share really. There's one thing that I wanted to get to do for myself today. I said, what I want to do is one particular thing. And then shopping needed to be done. So I set off to do the shopping. And on this one particular road, Moffat Lane, for the second time in about 2 or 3 days, the road was blocked. And I could see a car was actually on fire.
Wow.
With smoke coming out the bonnet, like further up ahead.
See, I've been on that road 3 times today, and there was no car on fire.
The day before.
You're obviously not manifesting it bad enough. Look, you've got a car on fire.
Fire.
Yeah.
And a couple of days before, there was actually a car. There was actually a car crash. So the second, I had that feeling, I'm not going to have time to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't get particularly frustrated. I just said, just turn around and go the other way. So I went the other way, got the shopping and came back home.
And
then walked in the house, and my daughter says, "Can you go and walk my dog?" Because I just haven't got time in mind.
Were you able to see as this was unfolding?
Well, no, it's only since Rich asked the question that I didn't really, but there was a little bit of it kind of. I said, okay, I'll go and walk the dog, So I walked the dog, came back in, and thought, I'll be able to do what I want to do, And then I think my good wife asked me to do a couple of little, or help me a couple of little on my laptop kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I was kind of thinking, perhaps something's trying to and I kind of just relaxed into it. I just didn't think much further of it, and I just kind of went, okay, I'll just help, And then all of a sudden, I found I had time to do exactly what I wanted to do, and then I did what I wanted to do. But I just realised a lot of that thing that went on today, it was really subtle. That I wasn't really frustrated about it. I wasn't very kind of angry about it. It was like
we just kind of accept it because it's so normal for us to experience limitation as a separate being.
Yeah.
Not being able to do what we want, or even on the pathway to be who we want, like even to reach awakening, and then even to establish yourself as that. It's just very pervasive. I recognize umpires everywhere in my life. I can't. I'm being blocked. That sense. We're so used to it. We're so used to not getting what we want. We're so used to being limited. Did we just accept it? Because that's the essence of being a separate being, isn't it? I want and I need, and I'm probably not going to get, for most of us. You start to notice it. It's like, wow, it's everywhere in my life. It's mostly in my manifesting in my awakening itself. I really can't there, really can't.
Yeah.
So
I can see it still kind of subtly going on. Because maybe a few months ago, I would have really been starting getting a bit stroppy. Like if Becky had asked me, or my daughter had asked me to walk the dog, I would have got a bit raw, and then come back and, but it's still going on a little bit because it was all quite in the background and kind of quite quiet almost, but it was still going on.
And it doesn't necessarily mean you transcend this, that you're going to do whatever you want and stuff everyone else. It's more like it just seems to naturally work out that what's good for you is good for them too.
Yeah.
You know, in that sort of, because you all one. Especially urge everyone to look at their own pathway where it's manifesting. Like where is I can't playing out in your awakening? You know, it's it'll be very pervasive as you start to notice it. But you can turn it around instantaneously by challenging that assumption that we just so easily give our agreement to. I can't, you know.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing that. It was very good. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.